Hello, everyone. My name is Mike Hankey from the American Meteor Society and the AllSky7 network. I'm here to talk to you about generative AI. You may have heard about this new concept this year. I actually use generative AI programs to create most of this presentation. So if there are any errors or problems with it, it's the AI's fault and not mine. So as we all know, AI is really taking over. I wasn't even surprised to see that AI was the badge sponsor for this conference. I don't know if you guys noticed that, but you should really look at your badges. There's a lot of buzzwords in the AI field, but the biggest one that I can think of is NVIDIA. And if you don't know what NVIDIA is, it's kind of like the Cyberdyne systems of our reality. NVIDIA's stock has gone up like 300% almost this year alone, and it stands head and shoulders above all of the other AI companies on the stock market, including C3 AI, who's the maker of ChatGPT. And the reason why is that NVIDIA has a virtual monopoly on AI training through the CUDA software and their GPUs. And it's just this, within the last year or so, they've released this GPU that is so revolutionary, the US government has banned the sale of it to multiple countries in the world because they don't want those other countries getting a hold of it. And that chip is the T800 CPU. It's a neural net processor. Wait a second. This isn't right. It's a problem. 1 second. Okay, sorry. It's the A100. And you and I can't afford this chip because it's the GPUs are literally $15,000 a piece, and they're designed to be linked together dozens, hundreds, maybe even thousands or tens of thousands of times, I believe. They sell them in these servers that are about 200,000 each. 16 of these GPUs get packed into it, along with probably a dozen or more CPUs and lots of memory and SSD fast hard drives. And what you do is you get a few of them, put them into a rack for a cool mill, then you get a few more and you make a whole long set of racks and you put those into a warehouse. And before long, you have a huge AI brain that's living in the cloud. And there's really only 4 companies or main companies that are these cloud providers that are offering these services now. There's probably more, but these are the big players: Amazon, Microsoft, Google, and Oracle. And one of the driving factors of this technology and these data centers rebuilding themselves is this program called ChatGPT. So what is ChatGPT? Well, let's ask ChatGPT itself and explain it to me like you're 5 in less than 100 words. And it says, it's hard for me to read here, but ChatGPT is like a talking robot friend that uses magic brain to understand what people say and talk back to it in a helpful way. Okay, well, that sounds great. But, how is it any different than that paperclip guy from Microsoft Windows 95, or Alexa, or Hey Google, or all the other myriad of digital assistants that we're going to revolutionize the world that I've heard about for the last 20 years? Well, the main difference is that ChatGPT can do actual work. What kind of work can it do? Well, it can do simple things like review and summarize or rewrite or write emails. It can read those super long emails that people send you and just condense it into like a few key points so that you understand. It can analyze data. It can translate text into many different languages. It can listen to your problems and offer suggestions and advice. It can help design programs, complex systems, answer platform-specific tech support questions. But the game changer for me is that GPT can actually code, and it can code very well. The first time that I realized this and went to try it, I was skeptical. And so I gave it, complex problem, a Meteor orbit file for just one day. And I said, hey, with not much of a prompt, can you plot these orbits? And inside the file were some column headers and definitions that weren't very descriptive, like A, E, I. But GPT was able to understand all of these files and what to do, and it created this plot of the orbit, which I was a little disappointed of, but I explained to it that we needed to see all of the parameters in like an elliptical way. And then it did that. And then I said, hey, it would be better if I could see this from 3 different angles, like above, by the side, maybe tilted. And it did that. And then I said, this doesn't look quite right. This graph should be, centered around the sun. And it did that. And then I said, would it be possible to see all the code that you used to do that? And it said, sure, here it is. And I copied and pasted that code, and I could do it over and over again. So this was just one of about over 100, coding projects that I've done so far with GPT since I've realized this. But, I've made entire apps that traverse multiple languages like HTML, JavaScript, and Python in AWS environments that are serverless. And I even started a dark flight model that has potential. It needs more work, but I was amazed at how knowledgeable GPT was about things like drag coefficients and all of the intricacies of a dark flight model. Really, GPT's only limitation is your imagination. So some of the more advanced things, okay, like I'm just scratching the surface here with what I'm talking about. You can plug GPT into your Python so that you can run your own queries to it automatically. You can make your own chatbot. You can use these things called GPT plugins, which will link your data into the GPT engine so it can understand your data and then respond to you and answer your questions. There's plugins for like Pandas, Wolfram Alpha, MATLAB, virtually any language that is out there can access GPT and use it. What else is there? There's multiple identities inside of GPT where it can take on different types of roles in advanced workflows. You can also do fine tuning. So I could say, take Peter Janeskin's new book and have GPT read it and then answer any question that I had about that book without me having to read Peter's book. No offense, Peter. I'm sure it's a great book. You can, how would this work for a company or the AMS? You would give it all of your support logs, your emails, your technical documents, your product documents, customer FAQs, and then now you would have this bot that could know everything about that, industry or that company or that topic. So there's also other large language models that you don't have to pay for or that you could customize in a certain way. Meta, the people that make Facebook, are very deep into this. And of course, we're only at really what I consider to be Gen 1 of these programs. And there's many more coming, including GPT-5 and Google Gemini, which claims to be 100 times more intelligent than ChatGPT-4. So we're really just at the beginning of all of this. Now, I was talking about this with Geert recently or at this conference, and the next day he had a GPT plugin for the AMS Fireball program. And this is how it's working, He says, I saw a UFO in the sky. GPT hits the AMS Fireball program and then figures it out and responds. I'm not going to read all that because my eyes are going bad. I can barely see the screen here, but you get the point. And the exciting thing for me with this, because I hadn't figured out how to do this yet, and Garrett had already done this, so maybe it didn't take him that long to do it, but it was very quick how he turned this around. And that's what GPT is doing now. It's accelerating development. So for me, as a person who has been into rapid development for the last 25 years, I'm just like blown away by this. So I've been getting a lot of ideas on different ways that I can do this and how I can improve the existing systems that we have and even new systems. And I've always been like kind of a procedural guy when it comes to programming, which in big projects leads to what we call spaghetti code, because there's one dependency to the next and it's very if statement related, and it's fine and it gets the job done, but it can get messy and hard to maintain. And it's not as smart as we would like it to be. So because of GPT, I'm kind of like looking at things differently, as that instead of being a program, it's more like an agent. And that this agent, has similar characteristics. And the main one is that all agents are mission-based. There's pretty small programs that only are dealing with one task. They also, obviously have access to local remote data. They can use ChatGPT with a plugin and access other ChatGPT systems. They're capable of self-reflection. Now, this is one of the big things about ChatGPT, especially the latest version, that is making it so powerful. Because if ChatGPT makes a coding mistake, it can realize it made a mistake, rewrite the code, recompile itself, and rerun it. And it can do that in a loop until it is able to accomplish the assigned mission. We also put in hooks for reinforcement learning. So for complicated problems that it gets wrong, it gets better over time, or customized environments. If, like with Meteor detection, if there's a neighbor window or car or light that's repetitive, it can figure that out. Now, this is where it gets kind of weird, is that these programs can create themselves, modify themselves, and even reproduce to make children. And they work together with other agents in the same system or across distributed systems to solve problems. So how would this work with AMS fireball reporting, an AllSky7 network? And basically, we would create components, which we're now calling agents. We could also call these bots, but the AI is offended by that term, so we prefer agents. And they do all these different things, and they can talk with each other. So when the AMS defines an event, it could, in a geographic location, that agent would be programmed to know that he should let the other AllSky7 systems know that this event occurred. So in the event that they did not, detect it properly, they could go into a second try, but also that they would just be put on alert, prep the files, sync the high definition files to the cloud, and so on. Now, this is still very conceptual, but the key core parts of it are working, and it really is all based around code generation. So where we are now is we have machines making more machines, and I'm not sure if I'm living in the Matrix or not. But, I grew up in the 1970s. My first computer was a Commodore 64, and systems like KIT, HAL, the Terminator, Max Headroom, and Joshua, from War Games. This is what I grew up on. And, I believe that one day we might have these tools, and that day has come. Now, I know what some of you are thinking, right? We can't trust the AI, Mike. It's going to destroy humanity. It might, but it won't do it today. Today, it's going to be offering us massive opportunities. Now, I don't know about you, but I've always wanted my own personal droid army. I wouldn't use it to take over the galaxy.
3 minutes, Mike.
Rather, I want to use it to rebuild the AMS, the IMO, and the AllSky domains and applications. These are, quite plentiful. There's a lot of work here that we've done over the last 13 years, and the website is very old. 13 years for a website is like a million years to Yoda. I gotta go quick, but the short story is we need a new website desperately. The current website is costing us a tremendous amount of money due to Google Maps, Microsoft Azure, and really architecture that's 20 years old, or not 20 years, 13 years old, that costs a lot more with virtual machines than some of the newer technologies do. Unfortunately, the model that I have set up for AMS, I become the victim of success because as the sites do better, it costs more money, it's more work, and I really have to get this turned around to continue thriving instead of barely surviving. So as the systems grow, the funding must grow. Bots are great and they're helping a lot, but we also need humans to do this work. And the most important thing to me is to make sure these sites are sustainable and can last beyond my existence. Unless, of course, I can put myself into AI and live forever. So the basic principle here with any website is the website should cover its own costs by the money generated on the website itself. So I asked ChatGPT, how can I solve this problem that I'm dealing with? And it offered me many different options. You could have memberships for advanced things. You could get public fundraising campaigns going. You could do grants to fund the site. You could find some type of sponsor. And, you'd want to set it up so if you made tons of money, the excess would go back into some type of endowment fund that would pay for the future expenses. Now, to get all this working, I've tried a lot of different business models, but where I've gotten to is, a not-for-profit type of organization structured a lot like OpenAI, where we're trying to build technology to benefit humanity. And in this case, to better understand the sky. And this really encompasses all the technology products that I've built over the last 10 or 15 years, including the Fireball reports and the websites and all these types of things, and the AllSky7. I just kind of need this under, this umbrella for myself to lessen the costs, consolidate everything, and get these systems talking together. And that's really going to open up a new generation of functionality and whatnot. So I do have a closing video. It requires sound, and the sound situation is a little weird here, and online people aren't going to hear sound. So I gave you a link, download that and you can watch it. And for people here, I'm going to lift this up and we'll just try to make this work. This is a generative AI program for Fireball events so that these videos will just automatically be made out of the system and even published without human intervention. I didn't even use ChatGPT to make this, but it's still a work in progress. What the heck? Oh, geez. I don't know what's happening here. Oh my God, not this guy.
Sorry for interrupting your presentation like this. I just wanted to say, USA, USA. I'm joking. What I want to do is say thanks for all the work that you have done on the Fireball system and making it available publicly for all of us to use. The AMS IMO Fireball system is absolutely amazing. The meteorite that we found was right on the line where you guys said it would be. And that is just a perfect example of how teamwork has rescued this rock, and it's just not sitting away, rusting away forever in that field. So I want to thank you guys so much for all the work that you're doing. God bless the IMO. IMO. IMO.
Oh, that's nice. Thanks a lot, Steve. Thank you, everybody.